Tuesday night, and we've had a busy week already. This is like the back-to-back doubleheader nights. You've had 4 shows in 2 nights, but this one's an election show. Good to have my dear friend Mahgdalen Rose, my goddaughter, on the phone with me tonight. Nothing really surprising. We won't keep you and bore you too long tonight, but I did want to bring you on because there are some developing stories around the Michigan primary, and before I get to the figures, let me welcome my goddaughter, Mahgdalen. Good to have you back, dear. It was a great job you did. You did a great job Saturday night, and I want to thank you for that. And looking forward to talking to you tonight about the Michigan primary and so forth. How are you, dear?
Me. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Good. Listen, I'm looking at a figure right here. There is roughly, I think, about 28, almost 29% of the precincts, and they called this really early, and he is up on Nikki Haley by over 100,000 votes. Speaking of President Trump, President Trump, 66.7 to 28.4. She may not even get out of the 30% range tonight. May not even get out of the 20s, the way it's looking. But nothing new here, but there's no indication from her camp tonight that she's getting out. I know the calls are, Fox is sort of screaming. Tim Scott was on there just a few minutes ago screaming about it. And I'm going to take some advice from my buddy James R. last night. We just need to forget about Nikki Haley. The story ain't even about her anymore. Trump's going to win this going away. He's going to win Super Tuesday in a rout. I think that the more oxygen the media gives her, including us, even mentioning her name, she's just going to feed on that and continue to do this stupidity. But the big story is a big win for Trump. But I do want to mention the Democrat side tonight, and I want to pull this figure in because I want to talk about them a little bit more tonight, because it was interesting that let me see if we got that. Hang on just a second. Yeah, there we go. It's in the blue. They were concerned a little bit, probably not a lot, but they were concerned that the vote in Dearborn, where all the Muslims live, was going to embarrass Joe Biden, like what happened to Nikki Haley in Nevada. But it looks like only about 15% of those voters went out and put uncommitted. So that's what how they voted. And that's about the percentage of the Muslim vote. Now, I'm going to talk about that first, 79.7 to 14. I know people are going to look at that and say, well, Joe Biden had a big night. But, Mahgdalen, if you take that 15% uncommitted, okay, and let's take it into November. There was a poll out tonight. Trump's up 47 to 42. If the election was held tonight, it won't be. It'll be held in November. But if it was held tonight, he would win Michigan 47-42. Well, 15%, that's a lot of votes. I'm just curious, does this carry over, in your opinion, to November? Or do you think these uncommitteds are just making they're sort of pitching their fit tonight, temper tantrum, and come November, they would never vote for Donald Trump, or may not even sit out the election. They'd come to Joe Biden's defense. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that it's more important than we may be expecting, because while Trump has been very staunch in his support of Israel in general, He's even more staunch in his support of no more wars and America not getting involved in new wars. So the Muslim population in certain pockets of Michigan voting really against Joe Biden, it is important because to them, nothing really matters more than supporting each other, whether or not they're in the United States or they're in the Middle East. And Donald Trump is not somebody who it seems would give endless aid to any country. He's much more likely to pull back. He doesn't support increased funding constantly for Ukraine. So there is a pathway, ironically, for him to probably do better with Michigan Muslims than you would originally think. And Joe Biden is in a difficult position because he's in the party where you have to not be for Israel all the time.
Right.
He's in the party where the young people there demand either neutrality or a siding with the people in Gaza. So he's in a difficult spot. Trump isn't. If Trump wants to say we're going to be a little more neutral when it comes to this conflict, we're just going to let Israel handle it, we're not going to fund it, Muslims in Michigan consider that a win. So this is an area where he could gain some supporters if it's handled correctly. If it's handled by MAGA influencers going there and having Muslims wear MAGA hats, it will not go well. But if they're really doing community outreach, you could see an upswing by 5%. And in Michigan, in a general election, 5% can decide who wins the state.
Yeah, that's a big point there. And I'm looking at the numbers here, too, with Marianne Williamson, the psychic, and then Dean Phillips. I actually like Dean Phillips. Dean Phillips, he's a very conservative Democrat. He's a Democrat. I would never vote for him in a million years, but I do like some of his viewpoints. Do you think that, because there's about roughly 11,000 votes between the two of them, that's about 5.7%, and that's really within the margin of error that Trump is up on Biden tonight. Do you think that they swing to Biden in November, or do you think that what we're looking at tonight is what's your thoughts on this coalition under Biden? Because, Magdalene, there's a lot of distress from what I'm hearing from people in the Democrat Party tonight. Look, there's palpable fear that they're going to go up in smoke. And I will tell you something that we on the right need to pay more attention to, I think. And it's what the Koch brothers said yesterday about Nikki Haley. Yeah. We need to concentrate on this House and Senate because nobody's talking about it. But if Trump gets in and he's got a hostile House and a hostile Senate, he's going to be strapped at least for 2 years and maybe 4 and doing anything anyway. So what's your thoughts on that?
He will be, and that's something that can be frustrating with Donald Trump.
Yes.
So Trump has never been great at down ballot races in states that don't already lean conservative. Yes, him going to Texas boosts the vote and gets turnout and helped Ted Cruz get reelected. That works. But when you send Trump to states that are more and more purple, that are not intrinsically conservative, he's not super helpful in getting those people elected. So when the Senate and the House are on the table, you need the Koch network of money. You need big donors. And this is something the Trump world doesn't want to admit. They want to say we can do it all ourselves. First of all, they haven't really won an election cycle in terms of the House and Senate ever. So they think that they can do it by themselves, and they send in the Trumps and they send in Lindsey Graham, and it just doesn't work. So you need the Koch network. And on top of that, you need Trump to stay out of certain things. Everyone does not have to swear some loyalty oath to him in order to run for the Senate or the House. You can have moderate Republicans win in moderate areas, and then you can have a Republican-controlled Senate, and you make deals with the Republican caucus, and it goes back and forth. But if we make everyone have to be in the model of MAGA, it's going to cause people to lose areas where moderate Republicans could flourish. And one example, this is what Trump did in South Carolina a few years ago. There was a congressional seat. He got involved in the primary. We lost it. We'd had it for over 10 years. And when he was asked about it, he's like, well, that person should have been more loyal. Well, now we don't have that congressional seat. We haven't for several election cycles. So the Koch network, in many ways, needs to be left alone to do what it does. And Trump needs to realize that if he's going to be running for president, just run for president, but stay out of the House and Senate.
Excellent point, kid, and I couldn't agree more. I think you've hit a home run on that, and I think that we better. I've been thinking about this more in the last few weeks, and it hit me a little bit last night when I heard that statement by the Koch brothers that they were concentrating on the House and Senate, and I think we as the Republican Party better do that as well. Your take on the numbers, I want to ask you about somebody that I heard last night, and it's troubling to me. Tulsi Gabbard's name keeps coming up on X and Twitter that she is being considered by Trump. I understand Kristi Noem is on his short list. Tim Scott's on his short list. Tulsi Gabbard is a ranked Democrat, Magdalene. She is nothing but a Democrat. I think it would be a disaster if Trump is even halfway considering this woman. Have you heard anything about her? And is there traction in that, or is that just ex-Twitter gossip?
No, there's traction in it. The young right wing loves Tulsi Gabbard. They think she's edgy and cool, and they think she's so right on all these issues, except she's a liar. She is not right on all these issues. She supports red flag gun laws. She's pro-choice. She is somebody who would never allow you to have your constitutional rights. But because she has an interesting streak in her hair and a low voice, and talks about, the fact that we should not be in endless wars, somehow she's like fantastic. It's ridiculous. I've always disliked this because there are very competent people in Republican politics and even in libertarian politics, if you want to go that direction, who have real knowledge and real abilities and have been in those situations, many of which have served overseas, and you never hear about them. Instead, you hear about Tulsi Gabbard, who stands there and lectures the world about how important it is to stay out of wars. Yeah, it's important to stay out of wars. Trump could pick someone who believes that, who is not also going to take your guns because you went to see a therapist one time.
Should I do that? Should I put like a weird streak in my hair and talk deep? Would that get me more listeners?
I mean, that's what the appeal of her. And it's so weird because we're all pretending that there's some depth there. And it's very clear that she looks like a Marvel character, and that's what I love.
Well, I do have a Batman cape in the closet. Yeah. I could break that out and put a Batman mask on. You reckon that would help? That might get some traction on the McFiles, right? Probably. Okay. Well, who is as you see, and we're not going to keep you long tonight, kid. We're going to keep you a long time on Tuesday night because we got a big day ahead. Now, crystal ball time. Where did you think? I think Biden sort of escaped tonight. 80% of the vote in Michigan. Do you see him? Is it too late for him to change Kamala out for Whittier, or whatever her name is in Michigan? Do you think there's any possibility that she is, because she was on the TV running her trap tonight. She was running her trap, and I understand that's what's going on the other side. There's a big push for her to be number 2 instead of Miss Harris.
Well, Joe Biden always liked Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, and so did Jill Biden. They had a really good rapport. The problem is that if Joe Biden swaps out the first Black vice president who's a woman, he might as well just kiss his presidency goodbye. It would be a disaster. The entire like Democratic base would rebel against him. Young women of color would rebel against him, and they'd have a good argument to do so. They'd be like, "So you just swapped out our vice president, our figurehead in this." Biden originally should have chosen Gretchen Whitmer. She was much more competent. I personally think she's got like a little bit of an authoritarian Nazi streak in her in the way she wants to lock down the country, but that's her business. He should have picked her originally. He has buyer's remorse with Kamala Harris. And Jill Biden has had many articles. There are many articles that have been written about how much she dislikes Kamala and how much she's kept her out of the inner sanctum of the White House and really only likes her husband. And there's a difficult relationship there. So I don't think he can swap Kamala out. I don't think he will, or that it's even really on the table. But going forward, I don't imagine Kamala Harris will have huge amounts of support within the party for any higher office.
Okay. Fair enough, and I'm with you on that. I just wanted to give an update. It's not going to change anything. I'm just looking at these numbers. He's up by over 130,000 votes in Michigan. It's going to be a rout. 67-28 is a butt whipping tonight. How keen are you on Kristi Noem?
I don't think Kristi Noem is particularly worth it. I think that she's somebody who doesn't deliver anything. The problem we have here is that a vice president used to be picked because they delivered something.
That's a good point.
Mike Pence delivered evangelicals in 2016. There was a lot of skepticism around Trump. People looked at Mike Pence being the vice presidential nominee, and they went, okay, he's a serious candidate now because Mike Pence has endorsed him at that point. With Bush, he was untested. They didn't know if he could stand up to it. Picking Cheney made him look serious. The same thing with Reagan in 41 in the 80s. Right now, the Trump campaign seems to be picking vice presidents just based off of unknown credentials and unknown consensus. It's basically whichever way the wind blows. to me, I think Kristi Noem is somebody she's just another voice. Like, she doesn't do anything. She's not compelling. She doesn't deliver a swing state. If you want to win a presidential election, pick somebody who delivers a swing state. We should be seeing names from Wisconsin, from Florida, from Michigan. We should not be seeing names from states that you don't even raise your head up during Super Tuesday because you know they're already going to go to Trump.
That's a great point, Mahgdalen, and I'm with you on that. Let me ask you this. We're going to go about another 5-10 minutes max. And by the way, folks, we're going to welcome everybody into the house tonight. If you got a question or statement about the election, Les says they're in Michigan. DJ is Trump. He's not running against Biden tonight, Les. He's running against Nikki Haley. That's the general. The general election is coming up in November. He's up by 5, according to this latest, I think, at Merrimack poll or somewhere. But I want to ask you a question off the election grid a little bit, but it has to do. It's a funny thing that illegal immigration, is the main issue tonight in the exit polls in Michigan, of all places. Mm-hmm. And it's the country. You got Joe Biden going down to the border this week in a pure political move. President Trump will be down there Thursday. They'll be about 235 miles apart from each other. Is it too little too late for Biden at the border? Do you think that he has sealed his doom with what he's done for the first 3.5 years, and then to come here at the last minute and claim he's going to fix the border, that people are going to forget the deaths? I'm going to tell you something. That death in Georgia, the details that are coming out are grotesque. And I'm telling you, people are listening to what I'm seeing on X and listening to what I'm seeing on the media. This is being laid at the foot of Joe Biden. That guy was caught in New York, released. He should have been in jail, but he shouldn't have been here to begin with, Max. And I'm going to tell you something. More and more of those stories are going to pop out, and I don't care how many trips to the border he makes. His sorry ass should have been down there long ago. And you know something? He could have fixed this with one stroke of the pen and one common sense method of not taking down the things President Trump did to keep the border safe, correct?
Yes, and I think it is too late for Democrats with the border. Everyone knows that they are the party of open borders. It doesn't matter what they peddle, what fake effort they push to close the border and then say Republicans won't sign our legislation. Yes, because your legislation says that 5,000 people at minimum every day can come into the border, that you don't even cap it until it hits 7,500 or so. That's what the legislation says. I think the problem we have here is that we don't realize the types of people that have come over the border. So before, it used to be economic migrants. You used to see people who wanted to work and who were willing to live in bad conditions, but really were just here for economic reasons, which is still wrong, but it was a different thing. Then we had cartels, but we understood what cartels were. And now there are lots of reports that Venezuela has emptied its insane asylums of men and put them on our border and said, go on in. And that's what has been happening for the last year or so. Other countries are following suit. Allegations that El Salvador emptied its prisons in large part and put some of them here. And yes, the president of El Salvador has cracked down on crime. But to believe that he simply arrested everybody and that no one was just bussed to our border and dumped is ridiculous. So we're looking at a different type of migrant that is here now illegally. We're not looking at people who are sending money back to their families in Mexico and all of the sort of sob stories and compellingness of that. We're looking at people who were lunatics, who were committed by their families, who were dangerous criminals, who were dumped at our border. And you're seeing gruesome crimes now. That's going to continue. But if the Trump campaign just sort of putters around and says, oh, this is terrible, and slams Biden for it, and doesn't make people feel the horror of it, he should have that girl's friends and family who seem to be willing to talk. Her friends seem to be willing to come out and put tribute videos out and be honest about it. They should be up there. They should be at events saying, why did my friend have to die so that you could have more illegal immigrants to vote for you in 10 years to AOC? That's what should be going on. Take it to that point. Dust off the tactics of the 1970s and shame Democrats for being soft on crime in a way that we haven't done since the Nixon era. Because this is an example of what happens. This girl is running in broad daylight in the morning in her own area of the world and campus or near campus with people around. She did everything right here. She wasn't a criminal. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't in the dark anywhere. So put those girls' friends at events and ask AOC how many more girls have to die for her to feel good enough about herself that she said yes to enough migrants. Yeah. That's the way forward here.
Well, that's an excellent point, and so forth. Corey Aguilar is right and chiming in tonight on Facebook. Corey, good to see you, dear. Chicago is ripe for change. Why not campaign there? You know, Mags, I remember you last year when we had you on. You made some excellent points among points, and one of the things that you really stressed was that you were frustrated that the Republicans are not going into these areas that they have just given up on, and that's part of the reason we lose these elections. The Democrats don't do that. They are fighting for every 50 states. They are trying to turn Texas blue. They're trying to turn Florida blue. They're in Virginia constantly. And why don't we? And I think Corey's point is well taken. Why don't we go into their territory and try to change blue to red? And we don't do that. Mm-hmm. It's a great point. It's right for change. And I think a lot of it's just apathy and stupidity. But maybe that's changing since Roma McDaniel is gone. What say you?
Well,
good question.
There are areas where we should do that. So we should be going into all areas of Virginia. We should be going into areas of Michigan. But we need to not fall into the trap of campaigning in major liberal cities that we're never going to win. So yes, even though there are areas and pockets of Illinois that are more Republican leaning lately, we're not going to win Illinois. But we could win Michigan back. And we could win Wisconsin back, and we could definitely win Arizona back. So it's looking at the map and it's saying, all right, we know the solid conservative states, and then we know the 5 to 10 plus states where we are struggling but have won within the last 2 or 3 election cycles. So we've abandoned areas that we don't think are profitable for fundraising as well, and that's one thing people don't realize. We abandoned Arizona because a lot of Arizona Republican donors either pulled out or stopped caring and got apathetic. So I would not say go campaign in Chicago or New York because I think they're foregone conclusions. But I would say go campaign in Flagstaff, Arizona, go campaign in Tempe, Arizona, and campaign in Las Vegas because there's a Republican trend in Nevada. In 2022, during the midst of the terrible midterm drizzle that was a disaster, one thing that did come from it was that the Nevada Republican got elected to the governorship. So we have areas where we could be campaigning, and Las Vegas is a place that the hospitality industry is in. Trump knows it well. He should be having a massive ground game. Let's make sure we can solidify Nevada. If we can't, at least try to win Arizona.
Yeah, I'm with you, kid. I really am with you. Let's see here. I don't really have any other questions tonight. I thought we would have more than this, but we got a good crowd, and we're glad folks that are up with us are. Roger asked, would anybody in Chicago even host a Trump rally? Yeah, I think they would. It'd be it would be attended by the few Republicans that are there. But yeah, I think they would. And as you said, we may not have a prayer to win it. I just think that if I'm not saying waste resources, but I heard a baseball coach tell me this one time, Mahgdalen, about hitting. A professional baseball player comes into the league, and the pitchers that pitch have basically 3 main pitches. They have a fastball, they have a curveball, and they have a slider. That's the 3 main pitches that most pitchers pitch. And these batters that come in from the minor leagues, 90% of the time, they have a problem hitting the curveball. And I remember the baseball coach saying it was beyond him why when they go into the batting cages, they never try to have the batting cage throw a curveball. They always try to hit the fastball that they can already hit. And I just think that we as Republicans, we do that a lot. We keep trying to make sure the world knows we can hit the fastball, but we don't even try to hit the curveball. We may come up short in these cities. We may come up short in these areas. But the thing is that if we don't at least try, and I think our presence there lets those states know that we do care about their states, because the political map has become so crazy that we don't even try in California no more. We don't even try in Illinois. We don't try in New York. We don't even try in New Jersey. We don't even try in these liberal states. And I think that we need to at least do. I'm not saying spread. I know the resources are thin. That's just an old guy's point of view. But from the younger point of view, am I at least on the radar on that? Do you understand where I'm coming from with that?
Yeah, and we could send people that aren't Trump, and that's sort of my focus there. if you want to win Chicago, if you want to do those things, if you want to build up a ground game there, then there are many people who are very compelling who could host rallies. The Republican Party has sort of abandoned town hall since Donald Trump came about in 2016 because Trump likes the rally styles, and a lot of newer Republicans were not trained in how to do town halls. Go into communities and do town halls. Have your favorite conservative commentators go there to build out a network of trying to win over the people of Chicago, at least so that they stop voting for the most crazy Democrat. So they start at least voting for the moderate one to save themselves something. Then send in everybody else, because honestly, Trump in Chicago may cause more controversy than it's worth. But if you send in people who are state representatives, who maybe are on Fox News, people with some following, you begin to have conversations in Chicago and New York and these major cities. That's more worthwhile than having a Trump rally right now, in my view.
Yeah. Good stuff, kid. And I'm gonna let you go. You need to save your energy for Tuesday night and bring some coffee and Coke and popcorn and I'm gonna let you fix the lemonade and I'll bring the cookies. All right? Because we're gonna be on the air for a while Tuesday night with Super Tuesday. And somebody said it was the 5th, not the 4th. I don't have a calendar in front of me. Whatever date it is, it's next Tuesday night. And any final thoughts before we wrap it up? Trump wins big. Biden rolls on blue tonight is the story. And good discussion. Any final thoughts?
I think Nikki Haley is doing better in Michigan than people think, because right now it's 66.9 to 28.1. She's cracked over 100,000 votes. Michigan is not necessarily the wipeout that a lot of people would expect Iowa was. She got destroyed in Iowa. But what you're seeing here is that she commands about 30% of the Republican Party. And Nikki Haley voters have this very annoying streak in them, in that they will not vote for Donald Trump, many of them. They hate him. They don't like him. It's a coalition of never-Trumpers and people who, for individual reasons, don't like him. So this 30% that she's holding on to within the Republican Party, I wonder how he's going to crack it, how he's going to take them on. Because if she's not his VP, yes, I think 10% of them will leave her if he picks Tim Scott, because her and Tim Scott have a similar policy background. But he has a problem with this 30%, and I hope somebody at the RNC is going to be tapping into fixing it, because currently I don't see any discussion about it.
I know, and I will say this, and I'll agree with what you're saying, but I will tell you, we're saying this on February the 27th. If he's not figured that out by the summer, then I think it's more of a problematic thing. Right now, I think he's just trying to get the nomination. I see your point. Your point is well taken. I think it's a lot of these 30%ers are never Trumpers. You're right about that, but I think there are some that are on the fence, and I do believe that the country's in such a state, Magdalene. I think that it's going to be different than it was in 2020. That's just my opinion. Listen, kid, I love you. Get your rest. I'll need you Tuesday night. We're going to start around 9 o'clock, and we'll have you on and off, and maybe hopefully I put it like this. I'm praying that all these races are called early for our sake, okay? And you're going to be in charge of running the desk and the numbers, all right?
All right. Thank you.
Love you, hon. God bless. Have a good night. Thank you, Magdalene.
You too. Bye.
Magdalene Rose, everybody. Put some fire in that house, and I'm proud of that kid. And I think that it's suffice it to say that it was an easy show tonight because of the win. Trump wins big and Biden does too. And I want to echo our audience. You're welcome to disagree, folks, with our stance. This is an opinion show. These opinions are ourselves, but please don't be disrespecting my guests on the platform. And that's a given. You've known me for 7 years. We don't like disrespect. I do want to address a comment, and the individual says Trump is going to go all the way because of the state of the country. Everyone knows it, and it's not going to change until November. I want to just say this, and I mentioned this last week, and I'm going to say it again tonight and reiterate this, folks. Our pride and our arrogance, we had better not do. That was the attitude that we had in 2020, and we see where it got us. Country was country was at stake, and we knew the contrast between Trump and Biden. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew it. There was not any question of what kind of country we would have under Joe Biden as compared to what we would have under Donald Trump. And there was so much arrogance and pride that Trump was going to run away with this. And, you know, Joe Biden didn't leave his basement, and Joe Biden didn't do this, and Kamala Harris was the worst vice president ever, and Trump and Pence were going to roll. Well, guess what? They didn't roll. And, yeah, there was a lot of weird stuff, and I don't want to get into the reasons why. I get my channel yanked tonight, and I'm fully aware of that. I'm not naive enough, but I want to say this tonight with all due respect to everybody listening. We had better be very, 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 very cautious of thinking that this is going to be some shoe-in election in November. Country is in a mess, folks. I want to go back. I'm going to show you something tonight, and I hope you understand what you're looking at here. Joe Biden was running unopposed in Michigan. Okay, he still gets 80% of the vote. 80. That's sort of the number of the Democrats that support him. He got 160,407 votes. Trump gets 235 on the Republican side, 241. And according to the latest poll that's out tonight, if the election was held tonight, Trump would win by 5 percentage points. But let me remind you, folks, that the election is not being held tonight. It's being held in November, and that is a lifetime. Look, we're talking 7 months, 8 months till election night, first week of November, first Tuesday night in November, and anything could happen between now and then, anything. And look, there's still talk out there. It may not be Joe Biden that he comes against. I'm not scolding you. I'm not trying to be belligerent, take issue with anybody. I'm just cautioning, as a father figure would. It's a gray-headed, as my son said today, a gray-headed old man does. We need to be cautious of thinking this is a shoe-in. And I got news for folks out there. It's not a shoe-in. There's forces tonight that are going to fight like hell to make sure it's not. And I understand where Mahgdalen's coming from. Look, there's a lot of concern about this faction of the Republican Party that just hates Trump's guts. And I've got some friends that are like that. They love, they're Republican to the core, but they hate Trump. They just hate Trump. And I don't know how he's going to overcome that either, to be frank with you. But he's going to have to, because he's going to have that 30% if he's going to win in November. So just take that as it may, and you can believe that or not, and so forth. And then there was another comment I want to address, and I guess I've already made that. I've already made that point. Trump may be up in the polls tonight, but folks, this is not November. This is February the 27th, and these polls don't mean nothing tonight, to be frank with you. The one lady says, I live in Oakland, California. Many of us don't want Joe or Newsom. Well, I hope not, but California's going to stay blue unless there's a miracle out there. I hate to say it. Totally says, I believe economics is going to be a major in how people vote. What we need is God. If it's God's will, then he will place Trump back in. Well, I'll agree again. I'll agree totally with that. But again, you miss. I hear that often. And people that know this network, we're a faith network. We're a faith-based network. We believe in God. I believe in God's hands is definitely in this. But let me tell you this. The thing that we cannot escape is the free will of the country. The free will of the country. God's not going to override our free will. So, it may be his will. It may be his will. But the people have got to embrace his will. And I understand where you're coming from. But I'm telling you, there's more to it than us just throwing that out there and say, well, Trump's God's anointed and he's going to walk into the White House without problems. No. And let me tell you this. I mentioned it tonight, folks. We do need to pay attention to the House and the Senate. This margin that we have in the House is like 3. And if there's a fluke thing that goes on in November, there's some seats that are up. We could lose the House again. The Senate, You know, it could go either way. I think until we get Mitch McConnell out of the way and get him out of leadership, we're not going to win the Senate. And that's part of the problem, too. We keep putting these same people over the Senate, and it's just not good. And Trump, you think about what happened to him in the last 2 years when the House went blue. He had unmitigated hell to deal with those Dems. And if you think it was bad then, with him being lame duck and then being scared of what he's going to try to do, folks, it's going to be World War III. I'm telling you. So the House and the Senate are important to consider. But you just need to understand, 84% of the Democrats, they don't care how senile Joe Biden is. They're going to vote for him. My question to the Republicans, if there's 30% of the Republican Party that says they're not going to vote for Trump, what does that say about our party? I'm going to tell you what it says, and some of you may not like this statement tonight. It tells us that we're just a bunch of dumb blanks. Because we will lose the country over our minor differences with Trump, and because we don't like his personality. The Dems are going to vote 84 to 85% and saying, we don't care if Joe Biden belongs in 6 nursing homes. He's got my vote. So before you chastise my guest, my goddaughter, and claim she's totally dead wrong, understand this, that she's right on target about that 30%. And Trump needs that 30%. So her point is taken. It's February. I've got faith in President Trump. He's going to fix that, and he's going to find a way to tap into that 30%. I don't think all that 30% won't vote for him. Some won't. Some won't vote for him if health rolls over. So it's a well-taken point. But anyway. Anyway, any other thing? Dennis Floyd says, I actually think Illinois can be turned. Chicago has always carried the Dems, but if Trump would go there for a rally, it would be amazing for Trump. Springfield is pro-conservative. You know, Dennis, I've actually heard that, a lot of these states like that, Illinois, California, New York. I've got a lot of friends in New York, got a lot of friends in California, and people that live there tell me all the time that if you go out in those rural areas, that it is as conservative as can be. It's just these population centers. And look, I don't disagree with Mahgdalen on this. I just got a different perspective. I think you're right. I think Trump would not be controversial. I think it would be award-winning television for him to go put a tent right in the downtown area of Chicago, have a mega rally, roll the dice, see what happens. Now, he'd have to have about 16 extra bodyguards because Chicago is a war zone. But I'm with you. I think that it's worth a shot. I'm with you. I think it's worth a shot. And, you know, I think the Republicans need new leadership, and hopefully this whoever this new RNC head will see the light and put us in the fight. Look, you can't win a fight, you don't fight. I mean, you can't win if you're not going to fight for it. And I just think we've given up on these states like that. And I think we got to at least try. You got to at least try. And look, even if we don't get every single vote there, even if you take even if you take 2 to 5% away from the other side, well, that's 2 to 5% that's going to come with you. That's going to hurt them. So you're not going there to win every vote. You're not going to win every vote in Chicago. But when you're dealing with the margins that we've dealt with over the last 2 election cycles, it matters. 2 to 5% vote matters now. So I'm with you, Dee. And I'm not disagreeing with Mahgdalen. I understand where she's coming from. And again, I'm the old man here. Magdalen's the young blood. So I just love the contrast, and I listen to her, and I look, these young people, folks, they're voting. And let me tell you this about Mahgdalen Rose. I listen to Mahgdalen because, see, that young voting bloc, where we think they're not concerned and going to not vote, they're getting out and voting. And they're voting blue. And Mahgdalen's a conservative, and she has got a group of kids that are conservative, and they're trying to scream at us adults and tell us what they're thinking and what they're feeling. And I'm just going to say it as a host of the McFiles tonight. We might, as adults, might be wise not to be so arrogant in our own eyes and listen to these kids. Now, we don't have to agree with every jot and tittle they tell us. And we may have our wisdom that we can add to theirs and help them see some things from our point of view as older people, but we do it to our own peril to ignore what they're saying. Because all she's telling us, folks, is what that younger crowd is thinking. And that's why I love her to death. That's why we have her on this network, because it helps me understand what my 22-year-old that's not into politics is thinking about this country. I got a son. I'm trying to get fired up about this. He's 22. He's just the same age as Mahgdalen. We better listen. We better listen to what they're saying. Again, we ain't got to agree, but we gotta listen to him. We got to listen to him. But anyway, it's been good to see you tonight. Thank you all, and Mike, thank you. I appreciate, Mike Toto, your comment there. And Mike, I wasn't taking issue with anything you're saying. What I'm saying is that we've just got to be careful not to get overconfident. I think we got arrogant in 2020, buddy. That's all I'm trying to say. That we need to be very, very humble. Take this a day at a time. Super Tuesday's coming up a week from tonight. It's very possible Trump will clinch the nomination next Tuesday night. And I think if he does, I wouldn't doubt if he don't announce his VP candidate immediately after this. We could have a VP announcement as early as March. So I wasn't taking issue with what you're saying. I'm just saying I think it's wise. We better look at what's happened to us in 2020 and realize that nothing's a shoe-in. Nothing. I heard these prophets predict 100%. They had heard from God that Trump was going to win in a rout. And there's never been any apologies issued for any of those prophetic words that were wrong. They were just plain wrong, folks. And people say, well, no, Trump really won. They just cheated him out of the election. Well, let me ask you a question. I'll ask it again tonight that I asked last week. If they were so sure that they were hearing from God, why didn't they hear from God that the election was going to be stolen? Because I didn't hear one of them say anything about that. I will give one prophet credit that told me 3 days before the election they felt troubled about it. Now, they didn't tell me why. But they did tell me, they said, I feel troubled about it. And she was proved to be right, actually. So I'm not taking issue with the prophetic community, but I'm telling you, a lot of the pride and arrogance came from those kind of words. And we just thought, well, God's all over Trump again, and he's going to just push Trump right back in that White House. And we found out the forces of evil were real in this country. And that's all I'm saying, my friend. And I'm saying that to all of us tonight. I'm saying it to myself, folks. I'm saying it to myself. Look, we're in this together. If the Lord's laid anything on my heart lately, it's that we are in this fight together as a body. And we cannot afford to be fighting each other. We've got to fight the fight of faith. We got to fight for this nation. And we got to be in unison. We got to come together for the country. We just do. And that's just, again, my take on it. Hey, I got to show you something. I do. Will you let me just meddle? I hadn't meddled all week. And it's a late night. It's 10:54. I got 6 minutes. Can you let me meddle just once? I got to show you something. And this is the craziness that's out there on the internet. And this is what I'm talking about. If I think this is it. It is. I don't know if you heard this or not. Some of you have. I know Cleo did because she sent me this, and I want to read this. And I'm going to hide the name of the person that posted this, but this is the attitude of the same letter movement that convinced us in 2020 Trump was winning in a landslide. Rothschild died today. Jacob Rothschild died of natural causes, but the letter movement out there tonight is still still in vogue and in play, and they say, I do not for a second believe that Jacob Rothschild died of natural causes. The U.S. military has executed him by military tribunal. Wow. Wow. Let me drop my glasses and cough a fur ball up at that. He was the head of the snake. And for historical prosperity, at minimum, he needed to be held to an account. This is the letter movement. The timing of his death is also not a coincidence. And I want you to look at how they interject their anti-Semitic rant into this. The world will have 10 days for normies to research his world conquest control via Zionism. Let me meddle a little bit tonight and tell you God's a Zionist, folks. God is a Zionist. As such, there will be a knowledge base taken into the upcoming psychopathic Zionist onslaught forcing Palestinians out of Gaza into Egypt commencing March the 10th. Now, this comes on the heels of the Palestinian Authority resigning last night and the fact that what I heard a rumor of yesterday, and if our country does this, we're doomed. If we force a Hamas-backed Palestinian state on Israel, and they're trying to legally do it through the UN, you can say goodbye to America. You can kiss America goodbye. And I mean that, don't blink an eye saying it. Because this kind of stuff, folks, is garbage. You understand? This is anti-Semitism. This is anti-Semitism on display. And if people are out there, I know it's a fringe movement, and not any of you out there, I hope, believe this. Jacob Rothschild, there's a documentary that's out about the Rothschilds, and it's sort of very in the middle. It talks about these conspiracy theories. It talks about their background. And all the little scaredy cats out there, they're scared if they breathe something and the Rothschild's name is on something. It's 666, the devil and the Antichrist. And again, he didn't die of natural causes, even though every news media outlet in the world claims he did. There's no proof offered about this, by the way. There's not a picture of him being shot by a military tribunal. There's no record of it. And there won't be. I'm only saying this. I'm not going to be ugly tonight. That is the arrogance behind the letter movement, and it's the same arrogance that was behind the prophetic community. And that's the same arrogance that's behind many tonight that think that Trump's a shoo-in. And it's dangerous. It's laced with anti-Semitism. It's laced with anti-Semitism. That was an anti-Semitic post. What I just read to you was an anti-Semitic post about Israel. And folks, I say it tonight. Those that bless Israel, God's going to bless. And those that curse Israel, God is going to curse. And we got a choice in this country. We can either bless Israel and live, or we can curse Israel and die. It's up to us. It goes back to free will. It goes back to free will. That post is an isolated post, but I guarantee you there were probably 100. I think I saw something. That post got 40,000 views. I think Cleo sent me that. It was 40,000+ views that saw that. 40,000. That's not isolated. You do the math. The Rothschilds are not the boogeyman. Satan is the evil one. You understand tonight? Satan is the author of the evil. And he's trying to destroy our nation from within, and he's trying to destroy our nation through stuff like that people believe that Israel is the enemy of the world. And I'm going to tell you this tonight again, folks. I'll say it again. I'm a little tired. You need to be with me on my Bible study in the morning. I talked about it this morning. I encourage you to go back and listen to our Bible study from today. But I'm going to deal with this again tomorrow. He will bless America as long as we bless Israel. He's going to curse this country if we curse her. And this push for this Palestinian state ain't going to work. And this pushing the Palestinians out of Gaza, what he don't put in that post is that it is the Gaza where the Hamas terrorist group is over them. And by the way, the Palestinians have no government over them tonight, period. because their government resigned last night to give way to Hamas, who, yes, in October, butchered babies, cut babies' heads off, raped women, raped men, raped mothers in front of their sons, raped fathers in front of their daughters, raped daughters in front of their fathers, cut heads off, burned buildings, burned homes down, kidnapped infants who are still not even out of harm's way tonight. It's time we sober up and take a good hard look in our soul tonight, all of us, and realize the country is in a terrible state, and we better get our heads together. All of us, me included. And we better realize what we're up against. And it ain't the Rothschilds. And as Chris says, this is an opinion show, and these opinions are mine, and these opinions are mine, and I'll leave them in myself. So, before I leave you tonight, I want to mention something. I have not done this in a while, and I keep forgetting to do it, and I shouldn't do this because these folks are great folks, and this is how you can help us. If you would like to support the McFiles while drinking great coffee, their coffee is roasted and made by a combat veteran-owned coffee company. It's called Hoosier Warrior Coffee. My dear, dear, sweet friend Natalie Corbin and her family is part of this. There's an OR code right there on the screen. If you'll put your phone on that, it'll take you to a website, and you can order some coffee and help the McFiles. We get a portion of the proceeds. It comes to help keep the network going. HoosierWarriorCoffee.com/McFiles. And let Natalie know when you order, you're ordering for us, and they'll treat you right. Listen, folks, let me come back over here and say it one more time. Have a good night, everybody. See you in the morning. See you tomorrow night for Bible study. We'll be back here on the News Network Thursday with Jennifer Harrison and Bill Federer. We're going to talk about Islam with Bill. You're going to love it. It'll be part 1 of 2, but it's going to be a good part 1. So, doubleheader Thursday. We love you guys. God bless you. God bless your families. Trump wins big tonight in Michigan, and Joe rolls on blue as well. Be blessed out there. Have a good night, everybody, and we will see you. We will see you next on Thursday night on the News Network, but come be with us in faith tomorrow night for our Wednesday night Bible study. Good night.